Hey there, my friends. It's Nick, the ASMR nerd, and welcome back to another episode of Relaxing Reviews. Now, a few months back, I took a look at a mechanical keyboard from a company called Redragon. Redragon. They're one of the most popular and successful budget mechanical keyboard sellers on Amazon. And the keyboard I looked at was the Redragon K556 Devarajas, or Devaraja, or whatever it was, however it's pronounced. It's the keyboard that was infamously purchased by Famcam ASMR without consulting me first. And it turned out, actually, that it was a really good keyboard. It was incredibly solidly built and offered a very compelling product for the price. So when Redragon recently reached out and asked if I wanted to check out their very first 60% mechanical keyboard, how could I say no? 60% mechanical keyboards, as a reminder, are compact. They're small mechanical keyboards that free up more room on your desk surface for mousing or whatever. And I generally find that they're more ergonomic. They allow you to position yourself in a more comfortable way when you're mousing and typing. And so Redragon's new K530 Draconic keyboard packs in a whole lot of features at a reasonable price, priced at $65 and sometimes available for less, depending on sales and coupons and things. The K530 Draconic has both wired and wireless functionality. It has hot swap sockets of a limited variety, so Outemu switches only. We've seen this before on similarly priced 60% mechanical keyboards, as well as full-on RGB backlighting, per key remapping, all that good stuff, all the things you would expect. The $65 price point, however, is highly competitive. There's a lot of really feature-rich 60% mechanical keyboards at that price point, or in that price range, between about 60 and 70 US dollars. So Redragon was kind enough to send over a K530 for us to take a look at here today, and we're going to be giving it the in-depth analysis, unboxing, typing test, checking out the software, the whole thing. So buckle up. We've got a lengthy review coming in. If you want to check out specific parts of the review, I will draw your attention to the timestamps, which are down in the video description, and also the bar, the play bar here on YouTube, which is divided up into sections. Each part of the review has its own section, its own title and header, so hopefully that'll help you find what you want to see. I should also mention that if you are interested in picking up the K530, there is a link down in the video description, and if you purchase through that link, you will get 10% off the price of the board, which I believe brings it to $63 on Redragon's website. So the link is down there if you're interested. All right, without further ado, let's take a closer look at Redragon's K530 Draconic 60% mechanical keyboard. And here we have Redragon's Draconic K530 in box. And as you can see, it is quite similar to what we saw with their K556 full-size keyboard. It's got this matte black cardboard, and it's got red highlights, including the Redragon logo. We've got some sort of highlight features over here. High speed, it says. High control, high response. So, this is marketed at gamers, clearly. It's all about, response times and stuff. Over here it says dust-proof brown, and it shows a switch. So these are Outemu switches that this thing is packing. They call them Outemu box browns because they do have the box-like partial enclosure of the stem, much like Kale box switches. That is to help with stability, but Kale box switches actually also enclose the mechanism inside, which helps give it more dust resistance. I don't know if the Outemu browns do, but it does call them dustproof, so I've never had issues with dust in my switches, in any kind of switch, but anyway, it says here Draconic Bluetooth 5.0 RGB mechanical keyboard. And then, of course, we have this shiny, glossy image of the keyboard itself, all illuminated, like so. You can see from the image it's a standard 60% layout, and we'll see that when we get inside as well. Overall, the packaging reminds me a lot of Razer's packaging, and I think that's intentional. It's sort of that gamer style, right? Nothing over here. Just some branding and the name over here, Draconic, and a Redragon sticker sealing it. Same thing on the other side. And then we've got a bit of information on the spine here. It tells us package contents: 1 keyboard, 1 user manual, and 1 USB Type-C cable, and some weight and dimension stuff, some certifications, etc. On the back, we've got another image of the board, some pictures of the board in action, once again all glossy, and then a big specs list here. Let's just read through that real quick. At least what of it I can. It's in a bunch of different languages. Bluetooth 5 wireless gaming keyboard with RGB lighting. Advanced Bluetooth 5 connection, low power consumption. 3 platforms included, PC, tablet, and cell phone. So they're saying, you know, you can use it with Windows or Android. I don't know about Mac OS. I don't think so. It says over here Windows. So 61 key portable design, RGB backlight, built-in battery, USB Type-C, and then the rest is covered up by the sticker, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Talks about the software down here, these sorts of things. So let's get on into this box. We will just cut the seal here with these little scissors. There we go. I think that will allow us to do that. And then do this. And then do this. Nothing else in there, just empty box here, but we do have inside there another box. This box is a little bit more reserved. It's just black with nothing else. It's just a matte black box with the Redragon Angie Dragon on the front. So we will now open this box. Oops. unnecessary double box, but I guess it's kind of a nice way to present it. There we have the keyboard, and I totally forgot that I requested this in white. I couldn't remember which color I had asked for, so white it is, I suppose, but it is available in black and white. I don't know, was there any indication? There might be, yeah. It says here model K530 RGB. I assume the W is for white. That's my guess. Why did I ask for it in white? I honestly don't know. I've got quite a few white 60% keyboards recently. But anyway, we shall see. Let's pull this out of here. Oops. Okay, so there's that. And here we've got a manual. And we've got a little box of, additional switches. Extra switches. We'll pull them out in just a second, you'll see them. But we've got a keycap puller and a switch puller. So even though it's not advertised on the box, or in fact, it's basically hidden on the website too. But this is a hot-swappable board with Outemu switches. Again, it seems to be that many Outemu switches these days are hot-swappable, or many Outemu boards, but only with other Outemu switches. And I suspect that will be the case here. And we've got a cable in white. And then we've got just our padding. But the keyboard does look well protected in here, which is nice. We'll put that aside, and this second box can go aside. We will take a quick look at the pack-ins before we get to the keyboard. So let's take a quick peek at the USB cable. It is, ought to be, and it is, USB Type A on the one end. No Redragon branding or anything, just a white molding. It does have a cap though, right there. USB Type A on the one end to Type C connector, an L plug on this end. I don't particularly care one way or the other, whether it's just a straight plug or an L plug, but they seem to think it's an important thing, so there it is. Cable's just white PVC coated. We've got a Velcro cable wrap here. Again, no Redragon branding on it, but at least it is a removable cable, which I actually really do appreciate. The K556 and I think most of Redragon's other keyboards do not come with removable cables. So this is a plus. It's a step in the right direction. I've never seen a 60% keyboard that didn't have a removable cable that I can remember, but anyway, glad to see they didn't do a fixed cable for some reason. Let's take a quick peek at these bonus switches that we get. So, Redragon mechanical gaming switches. On the back here, it just shows you how to swap them on the board. It says here mechanical switch replacement. Pull out of keycap. Which I mean pull off keycap. Put the switch puller in the proper T position. Pull out of switch. Fix the new switch in keyboard. Put the keycap back to keyboard. So they could use some help with localization on this particular piece of packaging. But anyway, it gets the point across. Let's just take a peek at the testers. Out. Please. There. So this makes nice little sounds. You know what this reminds me of? The sounds remind me a little bit of the deck boxes that I used to get in the Magic the Gathering fat packs that I would open. Somebody left a comment a little while ago about those, and those sounds specifically. And yeah, it reminded me just how nice they are. For those of you who are newer to the channel, many years ago I used to do Magic card videos, and I should do another one of those. It's been a long time. Anyway, here we've got our Outemu switches. We've got a blue classic clicky switch. Are they Outemu branded or are they Redragon? Let's see. They are Redragon branded. So the upper housings, if we can get it here, maybe you can just see it. It says Redragon there underneath the stem. But these are Outemu switches, make no mistake. It's just presumably Redragon pays Outemu to stamp their branding on there or something. They have an arrangement anyway. Red switch, which is of course linear. No click, no bump. Low actuation force, 45 grams ish. We have brown, which is the tactile switch. It's got a bump, but no click. Also relatively low actuation force. And a black switch, which is like a red switch, but heavier. It's a heavier linear switch. Takes more force to press down. All these switches, of course, come with opaque white lowers, translucent upper casings to allow the surface mount LEDs to shine through. And this board comes equipped with the brown switches. But anyway, it's nice that they include the extra tester switches so that we can swap them out and feel what they're like in the board if we so desire. Interestingly though, the board itself only is available with the brown switches. So you'd have to buy a set of 61 additional whatever other color if you wanted those. Here we have a generic keycap puller, but you will notice it is the wire variety, and I'm seeing these more and more lately, and this is great, especially because I believe, yeah, I'm just peeking at the board over here. For whatever reason, Redragon insists on having glossy-sided keycaps, and for those of you who know me, you know that is a pet peeve of mine. I hate glossy-sided keycaps because I just don't think they look great and they get scratched real easily, especially using the traditional kind of like hoop or what do you want to call it? I don't know, half circle style keycap pullers. But this style of keycap puller, the wire type, shouldn't damage the size of those keys, not substantially anyway. of those caps. So no Redragon branding or anything on it, but it should get the job done. Looks okay. Looks okay. And then we have the cheapest of cheap looking bargain basement kind of switch puller here, just made out of like a raw piece of metal. But, you know, it'll get the job done. So you just pull them out. We'll do that in a second. And finally, let's take a quick look at the manual, which is actually pretty thick, but I assume that's because it's in a bunch of different languages. It sure is. But would you look at that, guys? We've got Redragon sticker. So if you want Angie Dragon on your PC case or your laptop or whatever, you can do that. You can do that. It's not an unwelcome back-in, it's just a thing. Dear user, thank you for choosing a Redragon brand to protect your rights, and for better customer service, we ask that you note our warranty rules. Within guarantee period, repair is guaranteed, blah, blah, blah. Fill out the warranty card. The warranty card. I don't see a warranty card, but maybe it's in here somewhere. It also doesn't say how long the warranty lasts for, because they never do, but I think it's 1 year. OS support, here we go. The OS support doesn't actually tell us what OSs are supported. It just says Bluetooth 4 and above, tablet with Bluetooth 4 and above, or smartphone with a Bluetooth 4 and above. So hey, maybe it'll work on Macs. I don't know. It doesn't say anything about it here. Layout buttons. There's an on-off power switch, 3 Bluetooth channels, wired connection, tells you how to charge and how to connect by Bluetooth, bunch of function keys, macro recording, FAQs. If you spill liquid on the keyboard, please remove keyboard's USB cable from the computer immediately. Wipe up excess liquid and put the keyboard in a warm place to let the keyboard dry naturally before using again. Alright. And then we've got a bajillion different languages here, so that is that. Alright, let's take a look at the keyboard itself. The typical soft kind of padded bag situation. And here is the K530 Draconic in white. It is a standard 60% layout, so there's no surprises in the arrangement of the keys or anything like that. The case looks to be pretty darn standard. It's very basic. Doesn't even have the like undercut edges or anything that we've seen on other 60% boards in recent times. It's just got this slight wedge shape to it, probably 2 degrees or so, maybe 3 degrees of incline built in. You can see it's got OEM profile caps, which are, as they say, ergonomically stepped like this. Totally standard stuff. The edges are, rounded off a little bit, as are the edges around the top here. We've got a red dragon, appropriately enough, which is the Redragon logo. Other than that, I think that's the only branding that's visible on the front. No words or anything, which is nice. here we have some I/O and some switches. We've got what appears to be probably a charge indicator light, perhaps a Bluetooth connection light. I'll take a look in a second. I can't tell from this angle. We've got a couple of hardware switches. They're a little stiff. This is a 3-position switch. They're quite stiff. I'll look at that in a second. And an on-off. We've also got a USB Type-C port. And nothing at all around the back. So the cable actually comes in on the left side here, which might be a bit annoying for lefties if you're mousing on the left side. But it is a right angle cable, so it does keep it out of the way. On the back here, we've got this typical rubberized feet, 1 and 2. Got 2 more, 1 and 2. We've got flip out feet here, which actually flip out very nicely and give you a bit of extra height if you so desire. And we've got just some certifications and typical information. Not much else. The case material is a matte white plastic, very lightly textured. ABS, no doubt. So, let me take a peek at these switches. So we have the on-off switch here. You can see when I turn it on, it does light up. Yes, we have a Bluetooth connection light, which is flashing there. So it's trying to find a Bluetooth connection. Interestingly, you don't swap between Bluetooth channels with a key toggle. That's what this is about here. This switch is actually a triple position switch. Bluetooth 1, Bluetooth 2, Bluetooth 3. So you use a hardware switch to swap between devices. It's a bit stiff, but I've never seen it implemented that way before. That's interesting. And then this is a battery charge indicator right there. Looking at the top of it here, we have double shot keycaps. Very obviously double shot because, as you can see, they have that stencily quality about them, where they're not like a single piece of the double shot legends. They've kind of got these little connecting bits, and it creates this sort of a primitive look and feel, in my opinion, to the legends. It's a sign of older or cheaper double shot tech. Now, in terms of the durability of the caps, it's not going to affect them adversely. But in terms of the aesthetics, they do look a bit more primitive. And we've seen this a lot over the years, but also with sort of the advent of better double shot manufacturing techniques, we've also seen it going away in more recent years. And it's too bad to see it here. It's probably a cost-cutting measure. You will also notice that, yes, the sides of the keycaps are glossy. You can see it right there. Again, I don't like that. I don't think it looks good. I prefer a diffuse light, not a shiny, harsh light. And so I think they do this. I think they do the glossy-sided caps in order to make them, make the light reflect more, make the backlight shine more, I guess. But yeah, I just think softer caps look way nicer. The gradients look nicer between the colors and stuff. But we'll see how it looks when we get it in the dark room, with the lights on, the backlights on. What else to say? We've got secondary functions that are side printed. Where are we? There. So we've got like function 1, function 2 buttons printed on the side of the caps there. Those will not be double shot. Those are just pad printed, and you can actually feel it. That's quite apparent. We've got a whole host of secondary functions there, as you can see, that are side printed. So I'm hoping that all our bases are covered. So you can hear those brown switches underneath. Pinging is quite present if you listen. Is that ringing that occurs after the keystroke? That's just the top plate, for instance, resonating, or other components, but probably the top plate. It's probably a metallic top plate, so let's find out right now. We'll use our included wire keycap puller here. Keycap comes out. These are very sharp edged. And as you can see, they are double shot. They are reasonably thick. They are not too flexy. They are ABS. These are not PBT keycaps. They are ABS, which is a cheaper plastic. And I don't like the feel as much as PBT, but they will, again, they'll last. They're not going to wear out on you because they are double shot. Those legends are made of 2 separate pieces of plastic, and they will never wear out. But decently thick, at least. Decently thick. There's our brown switch. Outemu brown. Just hanging out in there. And our top plate under that, which appears to be probably aluminum. It's hard to tell. But let's use the switch puller and pull out the switch just to demonstrate that functionality. Maybe. Sometimes it can be a little bit stubborn. Oof, there we go. It came out. So that's exactly the same as the switch that we saw earlier in the testers there. So it was a little stiff, but yeah, we got there. Top plate is maybe just steel. Yeah, it's probably just a steel top plate. It's got a white finish on it, sort of a powder finish. Looks okay. Underneath, we have a green PCB, which is very old school looking. Couple of sockets and a surface mount LED above the sockets there. Not much else to see. So let's just, for funsies, let's just pop in another switch. How about this blue one they gave us? You can usually just do this with your bare hands. There it is. So that seems to work well, but I'm willing to bet that, again, these sockets are only going to work with Outemu switches, because the Outemu style hot swap sockets seem to work that way, which is always a bummer, but you pay more for wider hot swap compatibility. I'm just going to swap this switch back if I can get it out here. There we go. It's to do with the size of these contact pins on Outemu switches versus others. Okay, that fits in nicely. Let's take a look. Well, let's listen here. Okay, so we've got a very rattly spacebar. It's quite a bit of movement. And you can hear that those stabilizers are almost certainly not lubricated. There's nothing about these stabilized keys that sounds lubricated to me, but we will check just to find out. Obviously, lubricating the stabilizers is a bit extra work for the company, but I always do appreciate factory lube stabilizers, because it shows a certain, wow, this really doesn't want to get underneath. Okay, well, you know what? We're going to do the backspace key. Why is this having such a hard time? There. It shows that they care about the typing experience. Now, but, oh, you know what? Am I going to eat my words? Oh, maybe. I'm trying to figure out if these are looped. Sometimes it's harder than it seems, you know? Because they look shiny to me, which implies that there might be some lubricant on there, but they don't feel like it. I'm trying to figure out if there's any lubricant on my fingers. Let's take a look at the keycap. There is. You see? There is. Look. I don't know if you can see that on my finger. I'm trying to get it in the light. This is difficult. Anyway, there's a tiny bit of lubricant on there. There is. And I must apologize to Redragon for doubting them. They have lubed these keycaps, or these stabilizers, but there's really not much on there. And they don't feel especially well lubricated. Spacebar in particular. So the feel of a stabilized key can come down to the quality of the stabilizers themselves, and also down to whether they're lubricated. Yeah, I guess they're not bad. The spacebar is not great. It's definitely got some rattle to it. These other ones maybe not so bad. They still feel scratchier than I would hope for looped stabilizers. So it does appear that there is some lubricant on there, but it's very, very minimal. Just a very small amount. Nonetheless, better than zero. So props to Redragon for that, I suppose. That's pretty much all we have to talk about, I think. I will say it feels pretty solid. It's compact and it feels full, if that makes sense. It does not feel hollow. You can hear it when I tap on it. It doesn't have a feeling of hollowness to it. I would not expect it to be very hollow, given that it's a very compact board. It's got a 3000 milliamp hour battery in it. That confers a sense of weightiness, of solidity to it, so that's nice. And I don't think there's much flex. No, there's very little flex. And very little creaking, actually, which is another good sign, so... Alrighty then, well, overall, I think it feels okay. I think it feels pretty solid. I think the plastics feel of decent quality. I'm very happy to see that it's lubed. It's a little pingier than I would like, but many of these boards are. And I'm somewhat disappointed in the keycaps because they've got this, you know, primitive kind of stencily looking thing going on. And they're shiny-sided, which I don't like personally. But okay, well, the next step is going to be to take a look at the backlighting and the Bluetooth functionality. After that, we'll take a look at the software. Then we'll take it for a typing test, and then we'll come back around, and I'll share with you my experience using the board, testing it out, before finally running down my pros and cons and giving you my final verdict. Let's carry on, shall we? And here we have the K530 plugged in and lit up. You can see that it's actually got a very bright and vivid backlight, and I must admit that those shiny-sided caps look better than I expected them to, at least in the white color. I do think that the backlight on this board looks pretty good, certainly at first blush here. I would like to point out that if you are seeing any flickering that is not apparent in real life, it's just an artifact of the interaction between the LEDs and the camera. So I do not see any flickering. The transitions look very smooth and the gradients look very nice. This is the default color pattern. It's just fading through colors here. There's a handful of others that we'll take a look at in just a second, but I also did want to point out that you might notice it looks like the caps lock key is not illuminated, and that is because it's not. It's not that the LED is out, it's just that when caps lock is not on, the key is dark, and when we press caps lock, we can see the key comes on in red. This bothers me, and it's just a little polish thing, I know, but as somebody who, I like symmetry, and it just bothers me that this single key is always off unless you have caps lock turned on. I've seen much better solutions on other boards, such as caps lock is always illuminated, and then when you activate caps lock, it's illuminated in a different color. So I don't really like Redragon's solution there, but minor quibble in the grand scheme of things, I suppose. So moving on through our backlighting options, we have quite a bit of hardware control over, well, quite a bit, maybe not. We have some hardware control over backlighting. We have 9 different modes that we can cycle through. We have brightness controls, but we have no speed and no direction controls. We'll have to see if Redragon offers us those with the software. Hopefully they do, but at least in hardware, it's not available. But what is available, as we'll see in a moment, is a mode where you can set the colors of individual keys without software. So you do have some limited per key backlighting configurability without the software. Anyway, let's go through the modes here. So we hold down the function key and we press, no, pardon me, we hold down function 2, which is actually the menu button here. Function 2, and then we press 9. And that brings us through to a solid backlight mode. As far as I can tell, this is just a white backlight mode, and there is no way to set it to a particular solid color, unfortunately, without software. Unless you want to go through and set every key individually, which we'll look at that in a second, like I said. Okay, here we go. Moving along, we've got a solid rainbow. Oh, no, a fading rainbow mode. Okay, sure. We've got a static, what appears to be static. Yeah, just sort of rainbow bullseye going on here. We have the classic sweeping wave, but sadly, no way to adjust the color on that. Pardon me, not the color, the speed or the direction, at least in hardware. We have sort of a different kind of rainbow wave that I do like, actually. That's nice. A rainbow rotation. Just sort of like a rain effect or sparkling effect where each key changes color. This is more of a rain effect. Vertical scrolling rainbow. Kind of a bouncing back and forth multicolored mode. Maybe a reactive mode. No, doesn't appear to be. Actually, not sure what this is. This looks like a fixed color mode again, but there's no hardware control for cycling through different colors on the fixed color mode. That's interesting. Okay, let's see. We've got a rainbow ripple mode from the center. I like that one. Very nice. And now we're back to our fading colors that we encountered originally. So a handful of modes, I believe that's 9, at least the manual says it ought to be. None of them particularly wowing, but some of the standards, the standbys. We can control brightness in 5 steps by holding down function 2, and 0 is brightness down. Oh no, pardon me, that's backlight on and off. So you do have a backlight on and off toggle, and brightness up and down are function 2 plus and minus, which makes sense. There we go, caps lock flashes to let us know we've hit the minimum. And again, to let us know we've hit the maximum. At maximum brightness, it is very bright, very vivid. The LEDs look pretty nice, quite saturated. So, the LEDs themselves are not bad. But I do wish we had a little more control over, say, direction and speed here in hardware, and I do hope we have those controls in software. I also want to draw your attention to the perky backlighting configurability that's available without software. So to do that, we hold down function 2 and hit backspace. So this is the default arrangement of backlighting in that mode. But if we want to configure in this mode, we do the same thing again. Function 2 backspace, caps lock flashes to let us know that we are now in lighting configuration mode. And then we compress whichever key we want repeatedly to cycle through colors. So let's just do a few of these. And then function 2 backspace saves that. There we go. And if we switch back to one of our built-in lighting modes, and then back to our custom lighting mode, you can see it has saved it. So that is not so bad. If you did want your entire keyboard one color, you could just go through and do that on a key-by-key basis. But I'm pretty sure the software will offer us a better option. But anyway, the option is there in hardware if using onboard settings if you don't want to use software. Okay, so let's switch back to the default mode. Let's briefly talk about secondary functions and then Bluetooth connectivity. So we are in wired mode. You might be able to see that right angle connector over here. I know it's dark, but it's there. You can also see we have a light here on the side. There's an LED right here that's shining on my hand. It is solid green right now, which means it is fully charged. When it's charging, it flashes green, and when it's on low battery, it flashes red, I believe. Of course, it's plugged in, so it's not an issue right now, but that status LED over here is also used when connecting Bluetooth, which we'll look at in just a second. Secondary functions are well covered on this board. You hold down function 1. You've got your F keys all up under the numbers here. You've got nav cluster keys over here, including print screen, home, and page up, page down, insert, and delete. They're arranged in a practical kind of way that I appreciate. You've also got the arrow keys. Now, the arrow keys are only over here under WASD. Somewhat frustratingly, we do not have any arrow key functionality down here in the bottom right corner. Other keyboards, 60% layouts that I've looked at before, have had various solutions for getting the arrow keys onto a secondary function layer in the bottom right corner. The AND Pro, of course, has its wonderful tap functionality on these bottom 4 keys for arrow access. The Velocifier 60% board I looked at not long ago moved the function key over to the bottom right corner and then had the arrow keys right on these 4. That was a great solution as well. So it's disappointing to see that there is no way to use the arrow keys right-handed, only left hand over here. And what's more frustrating is that to access them, you need the function key, sort of. I'll qualify that. There is a fix, kind of. But you need the function key. You have to hold that with your right hand and then use WASD with your left. So if you want to use arrow keys on this board, by default, it requires you to use both hands, which sucks. You don't want to have to use both hands for arrow keys. However, we do have one life-saving feature here, and that is the magic function caps lock key. And that works just as it does on the And Pro 2, actually, where you hold down caps lock, and in doing so, it changes from caps lock to a secondary, an additional function 1 key. So it operates as the function 1 key without having to hold down the function 1 key. As long as you're holding it down, the WASD keys operate as arrows. So we can use the arrow keys one-handed using the magic function caps lock, but it's not perfect because I'm pretty sure it only does that if you have the software installed. It requires the software driver. At least it seems that way in my testing. And also, there's a bit of a delay. So if you just hold down caps lock quickly and start pressing these keys, for the first couple of moments, it just registers them as the WASD. It takes about a second or two before it registers them as the arrow keys. And that's annoying. If I want to use my arrow keys, I want quick access to the arrow keys. I want to sit here, wait for a second, and then use my arrow keys. Anyway, maybe it's a minor quibble for some people, but it does bother me. And I really wish that Redragon had included some functionality for arrow keys in the bottom right, or that magic function key didn't have that delay on it, because on the And Pro 2 it doesn't. So I think that delay is inbuilt as a, so that it sort of waits for a moment, so it makes sure that you are meaning to hold it down before it switches functions, but I don't think that's necessary. I honestly don't. Okay, very briefly, let's look at Bluetooth connectivity here. So Bluetooth is controlled over on the right hand or left hand side here, pardon me, with hardware switches. We are in wired mode right now. Let's unplug this. And there we go. Turn on Bluetooth mode, which is the upper of the two switches here. So we are now in wireless Bluetooth mode. Battery life, as far as I can tell, is very good. I believe this has a 2800 milliamp hour battery, and I've been using it wirelessly, and it gets me through my days, and I charge it at the end of the day. So it's enough for a work day, at least, with the RGB turned on at maximum brightness, which is great. So we are now in Bluetooth mode, and we should be, I believe, connected to my PC. So there's a switch over here that toggles between 3 Bluetooth settings. I just set it back to 1. 3 Bluetooth connections, so it's flashing. You can see that red light flashing. Now this ought to be connecting to my PC because I paired it earlier. Doesn't seem to be though. It seems to be searching. See, the red light is flashing. Interesting. Well, let's go to Bluetooth on my PC, and let's go add a device, and it does find it, the Draconic there, connecting. Okay, we are now connected. That's funny. I wonder why it lost that connection. Didn't do that previously. But now if I go, whatever, you can't see my screen, I know, but it appears to be working just dandy. This uses Bluetooth 5, so very little input lag, not especially perceptible, although definitely still there, compared to a wired keyboard, but certainly acceptable, and generally working quite well. If we wanted to pair it to another device, which, sure, why not? Let's do that here. I always like to demonstrate it for you, just so you can see I'm not lying about it. I just realized I didn't turn off the volume on my phone. Wouldn't that be awkward if we got an alert right now? So what I will do is I will turn on my Bluetooth on my phone, and I will pop open a Google Doc. I will set the keyboard to position 2. So there it is. And I believe... Oh, that's odd. Once again, it looks like it's not trying to connect. Why would that be? I don't see a red flashing light. Well, let's set it to position 3. There's position 3. Okay, it's flashing now. Let's go back to 2. Oh, you know what it was? I thought I was on position 2, or position 1 when I was initially paired to my PC. I was on position 2. That's why position 1 wasn't paired. Yes, now they're both paired to my PC. Well, that's a little silly, but anyway. We'll go to switch position 3. That blue light is flashing down there in the bottom left. Let's pop open Bluetooth here on my phone. Okay, so here we are. If we do that, there, Draconic 3. So that lets us know it's in the 3rd position. There we go. We are connected. And now if we go back to untitled document, there. It was a little laggy there. It's just because my phone's slow as hell. It's getting old and crappy. So that does appear to be working just fine. And if we put that aside and we flip back to position 1, there we are. It's case back on the PC. So, all right, user error, not hardware problems. Bluetooth seems to be functioning just fine. So overall, that's the hardware review. We took a look at the backlighting. Oh, I should show you one other thing. There is a way to record macros without software. And the way you go about that, if I recall, is function 2, and then we press 7. When caps lock is flashing, that means that we're preparing to record a macro. Then you go function 2 and you select a number. So let's say 1. Now they're both flashing. We are recording the macro now. Let's make it test, say. So if we want that to be our macro, we then go function 2, 7 again. That's now been recorded. And if I go over here and I press 1, it works. Test appears on my screen. But you know what? You don't have to take my word for it. Let's show you on the phone. We'll just switch back to Bluetooth position 3. And we will press 1. And that totally didn't work. Let's try it again. There we go. See, test just appeared there. Don't think it's focusing right there. Let's try it again. There. Now, the one downside of this is, of course, it overwrites the base functionality of 1. And so you can't access the number 1 now if you have a macro bound there. I don't know why Redragon did that. Once again, it would make sense to press function 2 and 1 and have it execute the macro, and then just have the base function of the key be its base function of 1. But no, it doesn't work that way. You just press 1 and it executes the macro, but then it overwrites the base functionality. So that's honestly really silly to me. Another just ill-considered choice that seems very odd to me. But anyway, frustrating these little quibbles are. Okay, now that we've had a chance to look at all that stuff, let's look at the software, because I'm hoping that the software is going to improve the situation with some of these functions like backlighting control, like macro recording and execution. Let's give it a look. And here we have the Draconic software. And it is readily available from Redragon's website, so no problems getting my hands on it. It installed fine. It's all in English, so these are just the basic localization features we would expect, and so that's all good. Aesthetically, it is sinfully ugly with this like metallic frame stud thing with sort of this gamery look going on. It really doesn't look great. It sits in your system tray on Windows, and I don't think it's available for Mac. I think it's only available for Windows. So it sits in your system tray, and it automatically starts with Windows. And it doesn't appear that there's any way to turn off that automatic startup behavior, which is really disappointing because that's a really standard feature on this kind of software. Overall, this seems like a very bare bones piece of software. We have the ability to back up and restore configurations, so that is nice. If you were moving PCs or you wanted to move a configuration to a different computer, you could do that. We can restore keyboard defaults with one button here. We have 3 profiles to choose from. That's not very many, and we can't change their names, but there they are. We can do per key rebinding, so let's click, I don't know, W. So we get a little pop-up window here that lets us change it to either a different single key, so I don't know, we can make WF if we wanted to. We can load a macro, or we can give it media functions, basically, basic built-in Windows media functions. That's pretty limited as far as these options go. Oh, that's funny. Let's just cancel. We don't have any sort of special functions, no secondary function layer access, nothing like that. But it does look like we can do most keys. Function keys, of course, not available, but everything else pretty much seems to be. So that's good. If we want to do lighting configuration, we tick this little light box here, and that switches it into lighting config mode. Trial of light is what you're seeing here, where it's fading through colors. We've got breathing. That's normally on. Breathing. Yes, the breathing rainbow. We've got it set to colorful. So, but if we wanted to make it a single color breathing, you can do that here. Looks like we have arbitrary color choice using the default Windows color picker. That's nice. If we switch it to normally on, and then turn off colorful, we can pick arbitrary colors for the keyboard. Suddenly I'm from Newfoundland. Only Canadians will get that, perhaps. The color rendition is fine, if not exceptional. You can see that this color should definitely be a warmer green, but we've got this very pale green. Let's just go through some of these to see. Okay, that's pretty vivid. These default ones are pretty vivid. That's nice. That's a nice color. But some parts of the spectrum it probably suffers. Happily, it does red quite nicely. A lot of the times, cheaper LEDs don't seem to render red colors as well, but this looks pretty good. There's white. Switch back to colorful. We have brightness control. Let's pick an animated one and see if we have speed or direction or anything like that. Let's do both ways. No, sadly we do not have speed or direction control. This is fast and furious, which is hilarious because there's nothing fast or furious about this. Here, though, we do have direction control from outside in to inside out. That's good. Coastal. Oh, that's weird. Coastal is just our custom config. How weird is that? You'd think coastal would be like the waves, but no, that's go with the stream. Here we can control direction, thank goodness, and speed. That's very fast. No, wait, that's very slow. Oh, that's very fast. I see. It doesn't change the animation speed in the software, but it does on the keyboard. Okay, so we do have some other options available here. That's good. They're a little bit buried in here, and it seems to vary by setting, but at least they're available. So we'll keep it on that for a bit. Let's turn off the lighting setting. We also have macro control, so we can record macros here in software as opposed to hardware, and it allows us to, for example, we've already got one there. Record delays and stuff as well. So if we stop that, if we wanted to edit the delay time, it looks like we can do that in milliseconds. That's great. I don't care that much, but it's available. Looks like it rounds to the nearest 10 milliseconds. You can have it cycle. You can have it record. So it's inserting a default 50 millisecond time here. But if we wanted to clear this, yes, clear it. Record again. And we wanted to record, no, stop, clear, yes. Record delays in between presses. There, now it's arbitrary, recording the actual time between. So that's great. You can reorder the things, all that stuff. Basic macro functionality. I don't know what this button does. Nothing, apparently. Literally nothing. Okay. And that's it. That is everything. So this is pretty bare bones software. It's a little bit janky. The interface is somewhat confusing. There's not a lot going on here, but the basics work at the very least. Oh, we do have the magic function button. So, yes, this is what I meant by this lets you configure the magic functionality of the caps lock key. You can have it set to function or function. Function dot. I assume that this is function 1 and this is function 2. So you can have it emulate either of those. But that is really not well explained here. And this dialogue is janky as all get out. So anyway, there it is. And that's everything. That's all the software does. So as far as this kind of software goes, it meets the bare minimum requirements. It does the basic things, not much more. It does not do it with style. It does not do it with grace. Not the most intuitive. So anyway, we've certainly seen better. We've seen worse as well, but it doesn't wow. Okay, so the next step is the typing test. Let's give this thing a look, and perhaps more importantly, a listen. Alright, so we've given the Draconic K530 the full rundown, the unboxing, the backlighting checkup, the Bluetooth connectivity, the software, the typing test. We've seen and heard all there is to see and hear about this board, so now it's time to run down the pros and the cons of the Redragon K530 Draconic. And we're going to start with the pros right here, the things I really liked about this little keyboard. The first thing is the somewhat surprising inclusion of Outemu hot-swappable sockets. This is actually not a widely advertised feature of this keyboard, and I think it's a great value add. Now, yes, it's regrettable that these aren't full-on hot swap sockets that allow any kind of switch on the market, but Outemu has quite a wide range of switches available that will probably meet your needs. So it does definitely add value and longevity to this keyboard having those hot swap sockets. I was also pleased to see that this keyboard comes with factory lubricated stabilizers. This is not common at this price point, and it definitely does give this keyboard a slightly nicer typing feel than a lot of the competition. There's tons and tons of keyboards using Outemu brown switches at this price point, and having those lube stabilizers just adds a little bit of additional smoothness to the typing experience and shows that Redragon does care about the typing experience. Carrying on, this keyboard of course features both wired and wireless functionality thanks to Bluetooth 5.0. I tested them both out. They both work great, wired and Bluetooth mode. The battery life seems solid, the range seems solid, and I didn't have any connectivity issues with the Bluetooth, so that's definitely a value add at this price point. I was also happy to see that we have hardware switches for both turning Bluetooth on and off, and for switching amongst Bluetooth connections. This keyboard, like all Bluetooth 5 keyboards, supports 3 different devices, and you can use the hardware switch on the left-hand side of the board to flip between them. It makes it really easy. You don't have to muck around with any function key combos or anything, so nice to have those hardware switches on the left-hand side. And finally, I was impressed with the backlight on this keyboard. I thought that it was very bright at its maximum brightness and nice and vivid. The colors were pleasantly saturated, the gradients were reasonably smooth. There was no visible flicker when I was looking with my own 2 eyes, although you may have seen a little bit through the camera. That's just how it is with the camera. But overall, I thought that the backlight implementation on this looked really nice compared to some other budget 60% keyboards in this price range. Unfortunately, Redragon didn't quite manage to nail the home run with this keyboard, and I do have a handful of cons to point out here. The first is that the keycaps feel and look kind of cheap. Sure, they are double shot, they're double shot ABS, so they're durable, but I don't like the shiny sides that much, and the double shot tech they're using is pretty primitive looking. The letters, the legends have kind of a stencily look to them, and overall they're just not the most premium feeling or looking keycaps. Another drawback of this board is the awkward situation with the caps lock key, which is not illuminated by default. It's the only key on the whole keyboard that is not illuminated by default when the backlight is on. Now, when you activate caps lock, the light comes on, but most of the time you're not going to have caps lock on, and so you have this awkward aesthetic where one key looks like it's out. It looks like the LED burnt out or something like that. I've actually never seen that on a keyboard before. Most manufacturers have other solutions for letting you know when that caps lock key is illuminated or activated, pardon me. And so it's disappointing to see Redragon choose this method of caps lock key illumination. Also kind of annoying is the awkward arrow key situation. Most 60% boards put the arrow keys on the secondary function layer in the bottom right corner, and that works pretty well. Some also include it under the WASD keys over on the left-hand side. The K530 forgoes the former and goes with the latter. So we have arrow keys under the WASD keys, but unfortunately that means that either you have to use two hands to activate the arrow keys, the right hand to activate the function key, and the left hand to operate the arrow keys, or you use their magic function feature, which turns the caps lock key into a secondary function key when it's held down. This is a clever feature, and I do like its inclusion, but there's a bit of a delay of about a second and a half between pressing and holding down the caps lock key and the activation of that magic function feature. And so that makes it kind of annoying, because every time you want to go use the arrow keys, you have to press and hold and wait on that caps lock key before you can start using them one-handed under the WASD. So I guess all of this is to say that I just wish that the arrow keys were a little less awkward to use on this keyboard, and were more in line with what we see on other 60% keyboards on the market. And the final con that I'd like to point out here is that the software, well, functional, is very bare bones, not especially intuitive, and kind of janky. This is kind of par for the course for Chinese budget keyboards, but I would say that Redragon software is maybe even a little bit below average in that regard, and I was hoping for something a bit more polished, a bit more feature-rich from a relatively well-established and well-known company like Redragon. So, after all that, what is my final verdict on Redragon's K530 Draconic 60% mechanical keyboard? Well, the previous Redragon keyboard that I reviewed, the full-size K556 Devarajas keyboard, really impressed me with its very heavy and durable metal chassis. The K530 Draconic doesn't have that going for it, and as a result, its mostly plastic construction feels merely average. And in fact, in some ways, it's a little below average, I would say, for this price point, just in that the keycaps look and feel a little bit on the cheap side. Sure, they're double shot ABS, so they're going to be durable, but the double shot tech used is pretty primitive, and it results in these kind of stencily looking legends, and I don't like the shiny sides on these keycaps either. I wish Redragon would stop doing that. The software as well is very bare bones and kind of janky, but the K530 does have some things going for it. Of course, it is dual mode wired and wireless, which is a nice value add. It has Outemu hot-swappable sockets, also a value add. And I was quite impressed with the quality of the RGB backlighting on this board. It is bright and vivid and quite pleasant. So at $65, it's not a bad keyboard by any stretch, but it doesn't really do enough to differentiate itself from the stiff competition in this price bracket. There are lots of very compelling options for 60% keyboards in the 60 to 70 US dollar range, and because of that, the K530 isn't an instant good value classic like some of Redragon's other keyboards. That said, however, if you're a fan of Redragon, or you like the looks of this keyboard and it has the features that you need, I have no problem recommending it as a solid 60% keyboard budget option. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of another relaxing review. Special thanks to Redragon for sending over the K530 that we took a look at here today. And if you'd like to pick up a K530 for yourself, there is a link down in the video description through which you can purchase it at a 10% discount. So make sure to take advantage of that. And of course, special thanks to each and every one of you for watching. I hope you found this informative, and I hope you found it relaxing. And I look very forward to having you back here next time for another episode of Relaxing Reviews. Bye for now, guys.